Next game they're talking about, though, another 3:30 kick, is Washington State at number 9 Oregon, which is on ABC. And the big storyline, honestly, is how do these teams respond to adversity? Oregon lost to number 7 Washington this past weekend, 36-33, one of the best games of the year, maybe the best game of the year so far this season. The Ducks held a lead in that game with under 2 minutes left, and then Michael Penix Jr. had his Heisman moment. I don't know if you saw the video, Dalton, of Jalen McMillan, who we actually interviewed, if you want to check it out, pff.com, but he was rapping to Jalen McMillan before the game-winning drive, freestyling about how he was going to win the game for Washington right there. I don't think the touchdown throw was his Heisman moment. I think him freestyling before the biggest moment of his life about how he was going to do this, that was his Heisman moment right there. And Jalen McMillan actually tweeted out afterwards because someone tweeted the clip at him and said, please let me know what Penix was doing here. He said, yeah, he was freestyling to me about how we're going to go win this game. And it's like, that's his Heisman moment, man. That's his Heisman moment right there. But obviously, they lost. Oregon lost the game. Washington State got destroyed by Arizona. That game wasn't nearly as close, 44-6, and Washington State was favored by 8 points in that game, and they lost by 38. And it was also Washington State's second straight loss, too. They lost to UCLA the week before as well. So Washington State was 4-0 to start the season. They were number 13 in the AP poll. Now they're out of the top 25, and now they're 4-2 now, Dalton. But ultimately, what is the matchup that you're looking forward to most in this game?
There's a couple things. First of all, on Penix, is it Aaron Rodgers that's always talking about manifestation and saying what you're going to do and all that stuff? Maybe he's got a little Aaron Rodgers in him, but I don't know I bet Aaron Rodgers doesn't freestyle. But anyway, I'm looking for the bounce back. So it's first of all, I want to give props to Bo Nix. Last week, question heavy what he could do outside of play action. 90 passing grade on non-play action last week against Washington. Props to him. Look, they lost that game because Dan Lanning made a couple of questionable decisions. Mm-hmm. And Michael Penix is just special, man. I mean, you lose to a guy like that, and I know it sucks because it's the biggest game of your season and you lost, and now you have to run the table and all that stuff. But you lose to a guy like that, there's no shame in that. That dude makes just special throws. It's crazy. I think Oregon, even despite the loss, the one thing I like with them, they're as consistent a team. I don't know if they're the best team in college football. Probably not. Maybe. It still could be. Maybe run the table and the whole thing. Cool. But they're the most consistent team in college football. You know what you get out of Oregon every week. And you really got it out of them last week outside of just situationals and all of that. The one thing that they need to recover quickly is the secondary, right? Now, you get torn up by Penix and Odunze and Polk and all that. Again, no shame, but it was the one thing I questioned coming in, that they're very sound across the board, but you lose especially a guy like Christian Gonzalez. There's not a guy in Oregon secondary that's like a first-round pick, right? Maybe not even a second-round pick. They just play good football, but they ran into elite talent. Probably Penix and Odunze both going first round, and Polk somewhere in the top 50, if not higher. So you've got a team who's secondary, though. That's the one piece of this who they need to recover, and you got to recover quick, because we've talked before about how Washington State, Cam Ward, Josh Kelly, Lincoln Victor, these guys are dangerous. They're really dangerous. The problem for Washington State, really, for as consistent as Oregon is, all of a sudden Washington State's the most inconsistent team in the country. For the first 4 games, you had about a top 20 offense, right? And they had balance. Cam Ward was making big throws early and late in the play. Their first 4 games, they were over 100 yards rushing in every game. They had everything. They had it going. Ben Arbuckle, the play calling, everything was solid. They had a bye week, and all of a sudden, now, you mentioned 2 weeks ago, they play UCLA. Best defense in the Pac-12, top 5 defense in the country, right? Matchup problem. Washington State's not great in the trenches. UCLA, maybe you have at least the best defensive player in the country, best D-line in the country. It caused them a ton of problems. Okay. Yeah. And they lost, I think, by 1 score. Was it by 8? It's 25-17, I think it was.
I believe it was, yeah.
So
respectable, yeah.
I don't have anything against that. UCLA is really good, okay? You come out last week, and Cam Ward, I was lucky enough, actually, I got to work on this game yesterday. And the problem for Cam Ward right now, look, the last 2 weeks, 1 big-time throw, 8 turnover-worthy plays in the last 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You're seeing him, 2 things I see. Late in the play, right? If things break down after his first read, just some rough decision making. I mean, throwing the ball into traffic, the 2 or 3 fumbles are mixed in there. Just some poor decision making late in the play that he was not making. You saw him late in the play against Oregon State. He was spectacular. I mean, just moving, throws on the move, scramble drill, the whole bit. Right now, late in the play, he's trying to play this hero ball. And I don't know if there's some carryover from that UCLA game or what, but they're not going to win like that. Okay. 2, I'm seeing times when he's hesitant, when his first read is open and he's just not pulling the trigger. Something's off with Cam Ward. Just the timing, everything about it. He's either not pulling the trigger or he's pulling the trigger into bad spots. And I mean, it's really carrying over. That's the first part that's carrying over. The other thing too, officially over the last 2 weeks, they only have 47 rushing yards.
Wow.
When in their first 4 games, they had over 100 in every game. So they're getting no balance. They're getting poor decision making. Right now, over the last 2 weeks, 44.3 offensive grade is the worst in college football. They're the worst offense, and they went from legitimately a top 20 offense that was putting up something near 40 points a game, high flying, 3 really good receivers, and all of a sudden the worst offense in college football the last 2 weeks. I mean, it's hard to. I don't know what was said or done or adjusted in the bye week a few weeks ago, or if it's just you put up 17, you get beat by UCLA again. I don't have an issue with that, but Arizona's like not a good defensive team, and their coverage unit especially just took the game over. It was weird to see, and I don't know. I don't know what the fix is other than they need to play a lot better, because they need to have some balance and play a lot better. But right now, it doesn't even look like the same team as they did before the bye week.
No, absolutely not. And I'll tell you what went wrong, Dalton, is that we interviewed Cam Ward on this show during the bye week, and I think there might be a preferred walk-on curse, man. There might be a preferred walk-on curse. Now, for future players who want to come on the show, that probably doesn't exist. We'll see maybe later on, but I don't know, man. Because like you said, it has been a stark difference.
Is that why you didn't want to interview Drew Aller this week?
No, yeah, we had Drew, message us and said, "Hey, can I come on the show?" And we were like, "Absolutely not. Wait until the app." No, he didn't actually do that. But man,
I've been fine with it. I've been
good. But Cam Ward, dude, we mentioned it. 88.2 grade in the first 4 games, top 20 in the country for quarterbacks. He also had a 151.2 passer rating on throws 10 plus yards downfield. That was second in the country, man. Last 4 games, and in that Oregon State game too, he had a career high 90.6 grade. So yes, the first 3 games, pretty easy opponents, but I mean, you play Oregon State, number 12 in the country, pretty good defensively, and you have your career high 90.6 grade with 404 yards. I mean, he looked on fire in those first 4 games. Last 2 games, he has a 45.9 grade that is 7th worst among all quarterbacks in the nation, man. There is a big difference. I think you did a great breakdown, because I saw it too, man, where he is just putting the ball in harm's way. He is late on throws. He's not trusting his receivers right now. Hopefully he gets it going, man, because we love Cam Ward on the show. Obviously, he's a fantastic kid. He's going to be playing on Sundays eventually, but he's got to get it fixed, man, because you got a really good defense now in Oregon that you're playing against, a really well-coached defense with Dan Lanning, at the helm there. It's going to be tough for Cam Ward, and Oregon's defense has embarrassed some quarterbacks. Not Michael Penix Jr., obviously, but Shedeur Sanders. Remember that Colorado game? They couldn't do anything offensively. If Cam Ward's not careful, it could become kind of like that Colorado game where Oregon is just doing whatever they want to the Cougars. But ultimately, Dalton, what is the final score, and who are you going with in this game?
I'm going to give you one more reason why this game is a problem. So we mentioned the offense, and Washington State, before these last 2 weeks, we talked about it a few weeks ago. We kind of liked their defense. Was it like the best defense in the country? No, but we kind of liked it. It was like, okay, there's some pieces here. They're decent on the edge. Safety, they have some things to work with. And all of a sudden, their other problem is they have the worst run defense grade in the Power 5 over the last 2 weeks also. Ooh. If you're going into Eugene with a wicked struggling offense making late throws against a secondary that doesn't have an elite talent, but is very fundamentally sound most weeks. And you're walking in with an ice cold run defense, you have major issues. And I try to find reasons. I don't like picking blowouts. It's not fun. And I try to find reasons that every team can win games. But if they don't look drastically better than they looked last week, this is going to look like that Oregon-Colorado game. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and say it. I'm going to go 45-17 Oregon. That is actually more than the offense. The part that concerns me is they've just gotten mauled the last 2 weeks up front, and Oregon's an elite running team. I mean, even last week, 214 yards rushing against Washington. Washington did a better job than the 320 they gave up the year before. But 214 is still a big-time number in a top 10 game. And to be honest, that's an average day for Oregon. If Washington State's run D looks like it has the last 2 weeks, Oregon's going to rack at least 300 on the ground. Yeah. And that's the wheelhouse. I mean, and I know, again, I gave Nick's credit for last week dropping back and sprinting out, especially in big situations and throwing the ball. But the bread and butter here for Oregon is on the table. And I fully expect them to take advantage. I'll take the Ducks 45-17.
Yeah, I almost have the same score as you, man. I have 38-17 Oregon in this game. I think Cam Ward will somewhat rebound from that slump, man. But, I mean, Oregon is hungry right now. After that Washington loss, after that devastating, heartbreaking loss, they are hungry. And Dan Lanning, motivates his guys better than almost any coach in the country right now. They are going to come out angry in this game, which I think is not a good sign for Washington State. I didn't know about that run defense part. I feel even more confident about an Oregon blowout victory now because Oregon loves to run the football. They're one of the top running teams in the country right now with Bucky Irving leading the way and all the other running backs they got there too. I just don't see. And with how well coached they are defensively and how much Washington State is struggling offensively, it's going to be tough for me to see Washington State keeping this close. But we're rooting for Cam Ward. We're obviously rooting for him, but it's a tough matchup for him it's a tough bounce back game. This is not a team that you want to bounce back against in Oregon. So Cam Ward, hopefully we're wishing him the best, man. But yeah, I got Oregon in this game 38-17.